everyone, and we are live, and welcome to Thursday live lessons here on Ukulele Underground. Plus, my name is Aldrin Guerrero, and our special guest for today, we're bringing back Mr. Mike Odo. Michael, too sweet me, bro. Yeah. I'm wearing that right shirt for that. Yeah, where's your Bullet Club shirt?
You can tell me to wear one.
Right on, so Mike Odo is here. He's going to be answering all and any of your questions. He is the music guru. That's what we're going to call you from now on. You're the music guru. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions, especially like music theory kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that I can't answer, and that's why we bring in guys like Mike Odo, experts like Mike Odo over here. He's been teaching for how many years now? Teaching music for how many years?
A long time.
Yeah, like I want to say 20 years?
More than 20 years.
More than 20 years, dude. This
Yeah.
guy's legit. So, Thursday Live Lesson is a place where you guys can ask us anything, and we basically answer any and all of your questions to help you get unstuck with the ukulele. So, Ukulele Underground, you can email us, you can message us on UU, you can, you can send us a video or anything like that. Yeah, carrier pigeon, whatever you want to do. And of course, if you guys want to listen to this in the car, you guys can totally download our podcast over on iTunes because you're on iTunes now. This is a podcast. You can listen to us if you have a long commute to work and stuff and you want to listen to some ukulele related topics, or if you want to just hear Kahai talk, As
one person put it, it's car talk about ukuleles.
So
listening to it in the car is fine.
We also have, speaking of which, Kahai the Legend Ferguson. So what's up, Kahai?
If this is like NPR, don't we have to do the sultry like, oh, you're listening to live lesson in the morning, or live lesson in the afternoon.
Good times. So let's kick things off with our first question. Go ahead.
Did you mention though, like if you want to watch it live or if you want to watch the video?
There you go. See, that's why we pay the big bucks, Kahai. If you guys want to watch this live, log on to ukuleleunderground.com and sign up for UU Plus to watch the live version of this. There is a video version of this live, and we put it up on the archives if you guys want to watch those. But if you want to do just the audio podcast, you can listen to audio podcast. Watching it is pretty, it's pretty important because we're showing you a lot of stuff on the ukulele, and just like
and you
last
can see
time,
the wonderful faces we make.
Yeah. That's price of admission alone. Right on. So hit us up with the first question, Kahai. Let's get down to it.
So one of our members, a few weeks ago, Alan, while you're here, Mike, he asked if we could go over harmonic minor scales. But then another member said, I'm very confused. Ukulele Gut said, I'm very confused with which chords go along with the melodic minor scale. It uses different notes on the way up than it does on the way down again, if I'm not mistaken. Would you please shed some light on this?
Okay.
So
that is actually a pretty complicated.
It's loaded. It's a loaded question.
Yes.
Oh, there's a whiteboard behind you if you want to use it to explain stuff.
So that's another reason why they should watch the video too, right? We use the whiteboard.
Watch it several times because I'm not even going to explain this that well. Okay, so the question starts with basically minor scales. Yep. So last time I was here, we talked about major scales. Mm-hmm. All right. So the way to remember this, there's three kinds of minor scales. There's a natural minor scale, a harmonic minor scale, and a melodic minor scale.
Okay, what is the difference?
So a natural minor scale is, if you remember that we talked about whole steps and half steps last time I was here. And I said with a major scale, you put the half steps, which is on a piano, just a white key to a black key or a black key to a white key. You put it between the third and the fourth and the seventh and the eighth step. With a natural minor scale, you simply move it over to putting the half step between the second and third and the fifth and the sixth step. Mm-hmm. Okay? So in the key of C, that would mean instead of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, it'd be C, D, E minor, F, G, A flat, and B flat. And then C.
No. So it goes,
I thought you were
like, so here's a C major.
Okay.
And then you said half step between the 2 and 3.
2 and 3. That's E flat. And then F, G, A flat. It's A flat, which is another half step. Then B flat. And then a whole step to C, and that's the end of your scale. So that is the natural minor scale. Now, when you usually look at chord symbols and you see a C minor, that's the scale they're talking about. All right? Now, a harmonic minor scale just makes one change to that. It's the same scale, except the seventh note is raised by a half step. So it's C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B natural, C. Just like that. Now, I tend to refer to this as the Aladdin scale because that's what it sounds like to me. It reminds me of Middle Eastern music. Yeah. And that was an easy way in college for me to remember which scale was what. If I thought to myself, minor, I always saw the natural minors. And if I thought of the Aladdin scale, it was the harmonic minor scale. Now, where would you use this scale? This scale would be used when you see the chord symbol, C minor with a major 7. Yeah. So if you see C minor, so it'd be C with like a little, probably a minus sign, which is normal, or MIN for minor. And then in parentheses above that, you would see MAJ for major 7.
So just to slow. Oh, that's your horse is going like 100 miles per hour. Okay, so when he's saying 7, when he's doing that, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is the B note. Usually in a C minor scale, it's B flat, correct?
Correct.
So this being the B flat, but then this time, we're hitting this. So this is our C minor chord, and because I needed to add this, what I did was I played these top 3 for the C minor, and then this B note for that C minor major 7.
Yeah.
Right? So now, keep going.
Okay, so melodic minor scale, it confuses a lot of people, okay? Because it is different going up than coming down. So how it works, it's, again, a natural minor scale, and then what you do is you actually raise the 6th and the 7th step by a half step. So it would be C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, C. So the bottom half of it seems like a minor scale, and the top of it seems like a major scale.
Yeah, like a top half fish.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the way down, it's just the natural minor scale. So you reintroduce the B flat and the A flat back into that. Okay, so where and how would you use this? There's a lot of ways you could or would use this. The easiest one I would probably say, using this scale, would be if you were, say, trying to do improvisation and you saw any note name, like a C, and you see the word ALT or altered next to it. Okay? At least that's how I tend to use it.
Okay.
All right? And an altered chord means that it's basically a chord with everything you could possibly throw into it. So sharps and flats, and it's one of the only chords you'll see where pretty much any note is almost anything goes. Okay? In general, you won't encounter this until much later. Okay? So if you are just beginning your journey into learning how to pick, solo, things like that, this is not something you'll see right away. In general, basic improvisation would be based around your major, your minor, and your dominant 7th scale, which is basically like a major scale with your 7th note lowered by a half step. I would love to go over all the scenarios for that, but there's a ton.
Okay, so for example, I'm a music writer. Like I want to write music on the ukulele, like just and I wanted to get fancy and be like, hey, I've heard of this, like this harmonic minor or melodic minor, scale. So how do I write that into my song?
Well, first of all, if you're going to use any chord, any scale, it's important to put the chord that goes along with it. Okay. So
what chord would I use?
So obviously, if you're going to just use the natural minor scale, it's just whatever minor. So we did C. We've been doing C's. Okay. So C minor. Okay. Now, if you wanted to have that major 7th note to use the harmonic minor scale, pretty much your option is to use the C minor major 7th scale. I miss C minor chord.
Yeah, because there a chord that I could use that doesn't involve a C minor major 7? Perhaps a G7? Because that will give me that B natural there. And it's still in the key of C minor.
You could. And that would actually get us into something called modes. However, one problem is in a G scale, in a G chord, you're missing the E flat and the A flat. That would come with the C harmonic minor.
Because say we play a G7 chord, right? That gives you notes from the C minor scale, that natural minor, which is that which is D note, which is part of that natural minor. F, which is part of that natural minor. Then you got that major 7, which is part of that harmonic minor.
Yeah, what you're actually doing is you're actually superimposing another scale over it. Now, one thing to remember is that when you're beginning this exploration into scales and chords, At the beginning, a lot of people will do that where it's like, here's the chord and here's the one scale that goes with it.
Okay.
All right. As you expand out your ability to hear these things, you will be able then to superimpose other scales on top of it. And what you're doing is you're kind of looking for what are the common notes. All right. Matter of fact, one of the things we do in jazz improvisation is find something called a key center. And what that means is over the overriding chord progression, what's a scale that basically pulls, what are the common notes for all the chords? And you can use those knowing that they will work in pretty much all the chords. Yeah. If you're looking at really basic improvisation, if you're going to play, let's say, the 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord in the key of C, so play C, F, G7, okay, and back to C. Now, if you construct all those scales, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C.
Okay.
F, G, A. Now, there's a B flat in there in the typical F scale, but in the key of C, you wouldn't have that.
No, it'd be
B,
major.
C, D, E, F. And the G7 scale would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Can we maybe like write it down and then
Sure.
so people can see? Because like the idea is that like, so if you're gonna use this, you look for what are common or what between them. So
all right. So this is until you really get further into jazz improv or any improv of any sort, this is kind of a good technique to find those notes that work well. Yeah. So C, D.
So while you're writing that out, Mike.
Yeah.
Going back to that original question, like he asked like what chords work with that scale and stuff.
So
and
it works the other way.
Oh,
so if you say a C melodic minor, it's a C minor chord.
Yeah.
With alterations.
Oh, okay. So that yeah.
Yeah. So for example, you're looking. So if you say a C melodic minor going up, that would be like a C minor with a sharp 5 and a sharp 6.
Okay.
All right.
So like, cause like over here, when we're teaching scales and stuff over here, we teach like scales first, and then we kind of teach chord families and things that go along with it. Well, with this case, it's kind of like the other way around, where I don't know. Like, is that how it works?
I'm sorry. I was writing. So what was that? Say that again.
So like, when we're teaching our music theory class, what we teach is like major scales, and then we teach you how to find the chord family to go along with the major scale.
Right.
But for this particular scale, it's kind of like the opposite, where it's not necessarily where you would play chords to go along with each note or something.
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I get what you're saying. What you're doing first is the important one first, because whenever you're going to play in a key, knowing all the chords that are built off of that scale is the first and most important thing. Okay. Because by learning that really well and then learning that bass scale, so if you're going to solo in the key of C, it's really important to learn that C scale super well. And then what you do is we get into something called modes. Yeah. And what basically, I think we touched on this a little bit last time, was play the C scale starting on D and ending on D.
Yeah.
And then E and because those are the chords you're going to use. Now, the thing to remember is that even though they would use the same notes, it's the order you put them in and which notes you're emphasizing that will define the fact that you changed chords.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, if I'm playing a C, if you can play a C, all right, and that would be C, E, G would be the big important notes to play, okay? If he plays A minor instead, that's A, C, and E. That's most of the same notes right there. And matter of fact, if you play an A minor scale, it's all the same notes. Yeah. However, by emphasizing the A, the C, and the E, you're kind of emphasizing the fact that you have changed keys to an A minor chord.
Oh, okay.
I see.
This is terribly written, but
trying to line it up.
I was trying to line it up and I ran out of space. So
sorry for the audio listeners.
So for the audio listeners, there's a whiteboard with a bunch of chicken scratch on it. That's pretty much it. Okay, so right here on the board, I have the C scale right here. And trying to show the F scale and you see how the notes line up. And here at the bottom, I put a G scale. So all the notes really do line up.
Okay.
Meaning that the notes in this scale, and this scale are all the same ones. But the difference is that I'm starting in different places, and the notes that I would emphasize. So here would be C, E, G. Those are the notes I would emphasize for this.
Why?
Because those are the chord tones. Okay. A big part of learning this is what we call chord tones, and basically all that is if you've been practicing your arpeggios.
Those are the notes and arpeggios.
That's
creates
it.
The chord. Anyway, the 1, 3, 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're practicing a C chord, your chord tones are C, E, and G, the 1, 3, 5. Now, if you do a C7, that adds that fourth note to a B flat.
So there's your 1, 3, 5,
7. Yeah, flat 7.
Flat 7. Yeah.
Flat 7. Okay? So it basically is whatever notes are in the chord you're going off of. All right? So if it's C, those are the chord tones. By emphasizing those, you are pulling the ear to that chord. You are defining that that's what you're working with. Now, with F, it's F-A-C. All right? So then by moving to that, you are now defining to the ear that you have changed chords. Even though the scale is the same thing, you are kind of emphasizing the fact that you have changed chords. One of my old college professors in jazz improv class said it's called playing the changes. Okay?
So
because we refer to it as chord changes. But he said that's actually a really simplistic way to think about it.
Yeah.
And if you really want to emphasize these things, what you want to do is play what changes. So if you're moving from one chord to another, what changed? What notes are emphasized? And if you're moving from, say, a regular C chord to a D chord, a regular D chord, think about what notes changed there. So all the notes are the same except for the F sharp and the C sharp that are in that scale. So by emphasizing that C sharp and that F sharp, you are showing what has changed in the chord. Okay? Because if you keep playing the D, the E, the G, the A, and the B, it's almost like someone could not hear it because you're using the same notes. So I hope that helps. So for that melodic minor,
one more question with the whiteboard. Okay. So you know how you wrote it out, right? You're talking scales and stuff. Wouldn't this be a B flat? Wouldn't this be an F sharp?
Okay.
So we're talking modes, I guess.
Yes, and because we're talking modes, that's why there's no B flat, and that's why there's no F sharp.
Okay, just to make sure it's clear. I know people might have questions. I mean, I mean, you can be Kahai though, but yeah, we know.
They know. Kahai really knows.
Kahai is the master. Yeah, but that's why. Just in case people got confused, like, oh, it's in an F scale, doesn't have that B flat in there. G doesn't have the F sharp in there. So we're talking modes.
You're right.
Yeah.
So again, what a mode is here's your C scale. Okay, this is the bass scale that you're working off of. If I make a scale going from C to C in this key, no sharps, no flats, that is the C scale, the first or Ionian mode. Yeah. If I went from D to D, it would be no sharps, no flats, and that would be a D minor chord.
Should be a what mode?
Oh, that'd be Dorian mode.
Just checking.
Then E to E.
Because me and Kahai, though, I just wanted to see if you knew.
So E to E would be an E minor type chord, and that would be Phrygian mode.
I was gonna say that.
Fourth,
I was gonna say first
is the F to F, and that would be this one right over here. And because there's no B flat in the key of C, that's why there's no B flat in this particular scale. That's Lydian mode. G is what they call Mixolydian mode. And again, you might ask, like he said, why is there no F sharp there? It's because this scale, this chord is taken from the key of C. Okay?
C major scale.
So C major, yes.
We did talk about minors. I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah, I think, like to bring it back, you're saying, and the reason why I asked you to write it out was that you're looking for, is it the key center?
Key center means what notes are
line up.
Yeah, because in jazz you tend to use a lot more alterations on your chords. Okay. You're adding flat 9s, sharp 11s, sharp 13s. So as soon as you start adding in stuff like that, you are altering the notes in your scale. So then you really have to then look back to again,
what changed?
If you want to emphasize the scale, then you're going to play all those altered notes. But at the beginning, that can get very tricky, especially considering that a lot of jazz tunes can move by you
fast,
really quick.
Giant steps.
Giant steps. I showed him giant steps, and he looked at the chords, and it was just How do you actually play over that? It's tough.
doozy.
It's a tough tune. I'm a bass player, and I find it hard. And all I gotta do is go boom, 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 boom.
Giant stuff.
Even that's hard.
Wait, who did
John
that
Coltrane.
Stuff? John Coltrane. Check that out. John Coltrane.
And then everybody else after that has tried to play it, and with varying levels
it's
of
just
success.
each beat is a different chord. Let's just think of it that way.
Yeah.
And not like an easy chord either.
No, it's a pretty complicated tune. So anyway, as you're moving along, if all the chords you're using have all these alterations, thinking of that when you're a beginner or just beginning into that world of improv becomes very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to be like, it's like paralysis by analysis is what we used to call it. And you think about it so much that you just don't do anything. Mm-hmm. So in that case, what you can start with is taking a look at the different chords, writing them out, writing the scales out if you get that opportunity, and then taking a look from one chord to the next, which notes are common, and then using those to build your improv off of at the beginning. And then it gives you kind of this little safe space to work in that then you can expand out and then start using
the others.
A flat ninth, because if you have these like 5 notes that you can always use no matter what chord it is and you're correct, then you're comfortable within that, and then you can use an altered note to kind of emphasize, okay, now I'm on this chord.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm on this
sharp
chord.
11. Now it's
Exactly.
a flat 5.
So then you know that, and then you can add that into those 4 or 5 safe notes that you can use.
So like earlier, like the example that you told Aldrin to try was C, F, and G7, right? Like, and then so the common notes between those that Aldrin, if he was doing that, he'd want to like try and emphasize.
Right. Now, at this level, when you're doing basically what we think of very diatonic or scalar type improvisation, there's a ton of common notes here because they're all common notes.
Yeah.
Okay. The entire scale is usable. So if you're playing C, F, and G7, he can just play the C scale over and over and over again, and that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the F scale and the G7 scale are incorporated in that scale. Okay? Now, so that means then for him, then it's a matter of once he feels comfortable with that, then emphasizing that C, E, G when he's on the C chord, that F, A, C when he's on the F chord, and that G, B, and D when he's on the G7 chord. Okay?
Yeah. And I think like so we kind of do teach that, right? Like here is like we teach them like, oh yeah, it's intimidating to look at every single note. So just scale it down to just like we find out what the key is and scale it to the notes in that key, and then you can even scale it down even more.
Yeah. And I've actually taught like in the improv class that if you're if say you're in C, F, G7, once you get to the F, those are the notes that you emphasize. Those notes that are in F, where you base your improv around those notes. You can play the C major scale around it. You can go wherever you want because they're all safe, like you mentioned. But the notes that are going to make the most I guess pleasing impact to the ear are that FAC.
Yeah, correct.
FAC notes in the C scale.
Because and then the reason is because you're outlining the chord that you're on at that moment. Okay. Again, you can use any note in that C scale in that situation, but emphasizing those chord tones does to the ear kind of define where you are. Okay. You're defined by using those particular notes instead of a C, E, G. You are defining that you have moved to an F chord. It's one of those things that it gets more specific the harder type of chords, the more advanced chords you're using, but the idea is still the same. The idea behind it is still the same.
Yeah. So going back to the minors and the harmonic minors, melodic minors, and such. I play a lot of like say flamenco music and stuff.
Okay.
So a lot of that, like minor 1 and 5. The 5 in that minor. So for example, like Hawaiian Superman. Right?
Okay.
Like told is the tale of a mischievous one who fished out all the islands and captured the sun. So that E7 right there is giving me the Aladdin notes of G sharp, I guess.
Yeah.
G sharp. So because you can't have an A flat and an A in the same A minor. So that G sharp, so it turns into E7 to the A minor. So that E7 chord, it's not in the original chord family of the A minor, but how did we get that E7 there and that it fits?
Okay.
Because I tried to explain to Kahai as best as I can, just like the most simplest terms, but let's.
So what key are you playing?
Have
You're playing
A minor.
You're playing an A.
Yeah.
So actually, in the key of A minor, the E chord is a correct one. You're just making an alteration to it.
Or the 7, which would give you the harmonic.
Yes.
Mm.
Because A minor is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So the E is there, and because of the key, it's not an E flat, or
would it be like an E minor?
Well, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, 5, and in the key of A minor, there's no sharps, no flats, so it's an E to an E with no sharps, no flats, so that is an E minor. All right.
Yeah, because it's usually an E minor. So how does it turn into an E?
So what do they want? So it's partially what do you want? Okay, as we said last time, one of the things about this is you can alter anything you want. You just have to know why you're doing it. You know, Miles Davis famously said, "The only reason you learn all the rules of music is so you know what you're breaking." You know,
great quote.
And it's very true. You can put anything into anything if you want. It depends on what you're looking for. So what they were looking for was that G sharp, okay, to make it the Aladdin scale thing. All right. So then you figure, okay, so how do I do that? Do I put a G sharp chord in there? That doesn't work. Okay. Because quite frankly, they really don't use such a thing as a G sharp chord. You would always just say A flat. Yeah. So they figured out, okay, well, where in that, and where would it be used? Also, because it's more a fact of they wanted what chord did they want it to be, a leading chord back to the 1 or something like that. So they figured that out first. Yeah. And they figured that was going to be an E chord.
So it's going to be a 5 because the 5 usually leads to the 1. Okay.
And then they were like, okay, so now I know I want it to be the 5 chord, so that's E. Okay, but I want this note, so how do I get a G sharp into an E?
The G sharp is an E.
By making it not minor. Okay? And since it's a 5 chord anyway, right? Yeah. Normally that's mixolydian mode, so you would put the 7th on it. So what they did was they just made it, they turned it from minor back to major, and then added that 7th note to give it that leading tone quality. Because while the G sharp in that E chord is what gives it the Aladdin quality, it's the D sharp, the passing, the 7th, that major 7th, or I'm sorry, the minor 7th, the D natural, that leads us back to A.
Yeah.
So maybe Aldrin, could you play that phrase with like E major, or like play it with the other thing you mentioned was like a flat possibly, right?
Well, no. G sharp is a note that we're using to lead into the A. So G sharp will give you the
7th note you're looking for.
Yeah, you're looking for that wants to resolve to the other 1.
Could you play that phrase though with E major instead of that E7?
Okay, yeah.
Like,
so it goes.
All right. So what you have there is you still have that 7th. You can still hear that sharp major 7th that gives you the Aladdin scale. Yeah. But what you're missing is that flatted 7th note that has that pulling quality back down to the root.
Yeah. So let's just play those 2 chords versus with that 7, which is.
Because a lot of times when you have things that are a half step apart, they want to resolve up. They want to by playing that note with that the 7th note, which is like a half step away from the root. That's what you're getting that sound, and then by adding the 7th, you're giving that 5th that pull. You're giving the real sound of the dominant 7th chord, which pulls you back to the root. It wants to resolve. Okay, resolution simply means you're going from something that sounds more dissonant to less dissonant, or not dissonant at all. And dissonant just means it doesn't sound great together. For example, if you were to play like a B and a C next to each other,
Some Danny Elfman stuff.
Danny Elfman. He's pretty famous for this. All right. So you hear how that has that weird very tension quality. Now you can resolve that in a number of ways. You could just make the B a C, or you could move the B down to an A natural. And you see how it's still not the same note, but you hear how that kind of that tension in the sound started to move away. Mm-hmm. And that's more of a resolution. That's what we call consonant. So remember, if someone says it's very consonant, they're not talking about, hooked on phonics. They're talking about two notes that don't have much tension when you place them next to each other. Yeah. Whereas dissonant means you have two notes that when placed next to each other or and played at the same time, you can hear that tension.
Mm-hmm. Tension.
So like for like when you're writing songs or like in the case of Hawaiian Superman, it could have been that they use the E major and then they're like, we need something that feels more like it wants to resolve to
right.
A.
Well, when people hear dissonant notes together, there's something in your brain that wants to hear it resolve. Okay, so that's why the 5 chord tends to be a dominant 7. That's why they use that, because it strengthens that image, that impact in your brain.
Mm-hmm. So once it resolves, it's like, oh, this is
it's like, oh
yeah. So what's cool too, that with that 5-7 to the or actually like a major 5-7 instead of it being a minor, because it's usually a minor there, right? In the chord family.
Yeah.
In A minor, it would be an E minor, but if you want to create that tension, so what happens here? That I've found, I write a lot of stuff with with that kind of 5-7 going into one minor, because you have that G sharp that goes into the A, right? But you also in that E, that 7, you have that, because it's an E7, you have a D natural that wants to resolve to that to that E instead. So you have two tension notes that want to in two different directions too.
Right.
One going G sharp to A and the other one going from D to E. Because you have that E in an A minor. So I use this a lot to give that kind of tension, which and also those two notes wanting to resolve to each other.
And for those of you looking to get a little bit more into a little more nerdy music theory, that technique is what they call voice leading. Mm-hmm. So if you look up 4-part voice leading on Google, what it'll show you is basically they'll show you the exercise of like how if you go to church and they have all the choir music written out with all the 4 parts that just keep moving up and down. Mm-hmm. There's a science to why one note moves to the next as they're changing chords. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's rules as to what you do and rules as to what you don't do. Mm-hmm. All right? And a lot of it is just to create the rules of what not to do is just to prevent clashing notes. Yeah. For instance, what they would not want to do is if you have the 2 low voices, you don't want them crossing like that. Mm-hmm. That's a general rule. So if you have the 2 bottom voices and
stay on your side.
Yeah, kind of like that. The higher of the 2 voices is gonna stay up here, and the bottom of the 2 voices is gonna stay over here, and they're not gonna do this where the bottom one goes above that.
So you're talking about like 2 people who are singing harmony and they're singing together, and then like when they're singing different notes, and then if they had to switch to another note, it's not like one person is gonna suddenly go lower and the other person is gonna go higher.
Right. The top one is gonna stay above and the bottom one is gonna stay below. Okay? Because it's a very weird. First of all, it's a weird jarring thing if you tried to do that. If you cross singing voices like that, it's like crossing streams in Ghostbusters. Bad stuff happens. And remember that in typical choir type writing, there's 4 voices. So you have to keep that in mind for 4. So not only do you have to do that with this, you also have to do that with these 2. You got to make sure that they don't really do that. And then these 2 up here.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the top and the bottom one, which would be like a soprano singer and a bass singer, you're probably not going to have that problem because...
But like tenor and altos...
Barry White and Ariana Grande are not going to cross notes.
That'd be awesome, though. I
would love to see Barry White do the whistle notes.
I want to see like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like I want to see some stuff happen.
Marshmallow sounds good.
So, did you have any other questions? Hopefully that answers that question.
I hope so.
It's a nice 30-minute answer to that question. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like so to kind of sum it all up, like, should this person be thinking about, or like, how should they be considering the melodic or harmonic?
Well, I want to say that it's good to like be interested in something, because I'm pretty sure he heard us talking about like harmonic minors or melodic minors, or like have heard it somewhere else and you're like, I want to try this out. It's always nice to be like experiment with stuff, but at the same time, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, kind of thing. What do you feel?
Well, like I said, so if you're interested in using it, to whoever asked this question, if you're interested in learning how to use a melodic minor scale, I would definitely suggest learning how to use the first two first. Okay, learn your natural minors, because you're going to encounter that a ton more. Plus, half of that's going to teach you the melodic minor scale anyway. Learn the harmonic minors; those do happen a lot. The reason that melodic minors are tough is because they are very conditional. It's like, if you see a chord with this and this, then that's when you use it. Whereas basically a natural minor scale, you're just going to use it anytime you see a minor scale. Okay? Yeah. So if you see a C minor or C minor 7 or C minor 9 or C minor 11, it's still basically the natural minor scale.
Because the 9 to 11, that's all on the scale.
Yeah, it's all on the scale.
Yeah.
The harmonic minor scale is pretty much the same way. Is if you see the minor major 7 scale chord, that's when you're going to use that. Like, now,
I know what to do.
Admittedly, the other easy one is if you are going to play a 5 chord in a minor key, like you were using in Superman, you can also impose that harmonic minor chord on that. Because it will give you some leading notes back in that. Yeah, it'll give you some of those tension notes to get back into it. Okay? The melodic minor scale kind of is requiring you to put more of those little addendums onto all your chords. Okay? So if you see a basic minor chord, you're correct going down, but you would have a bunch of tension notes going up. That being said, a lot of it is play around with it and see what sounds good to you. So if you have a looper, for example, if you want to learn about melodic minor scales, get on your looper, just pick one minor scale, right? And just give yourself a rhythm. And then play that scale over it and see how it reacts with that. Okay?
That's great.
And then also maybe you could find a minor progression, like a 1-4-5 in minor, and see how that melodic minor scale reacts with each of the different chords, because it's going to react differently with each of them. That raised 5 and 6 is going to really stick out in your ear. I'm sorry, raised 6 and 7. It's really going to stick out in your ear. But that could be the very sound you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay? So like many things, it's kind of like jazz improv too, like we were talking about. Any note works if you use it the right way. Okay.
Do you have any examples of songs that might have a melodic minor in it? So that people can kind of, get an idea of what it sounds like in, when it's being used.
Well, I was just gonna suggest. So you said like play just a minor chord, right? And then kind of play around with the scale and see how that fits with it. If they have a looper or something, that's what they can do.
Yeah.
But like, or I don't know if right now, like, do we want to play? Do you want? I could play a minor scale and then, or not a minor scale, a minor chord, and then I don't know if you want to play.
You have your ukulele over there?
Yeah, I have a.
Okay. So play a C minor scale, since we're talking about C minor. I'm not scale, but chords. Just. So a regular minor scale.
Sorry, I'm gonna switch you first because I can't do both at the same time. So
Okay.
Gonna switch you. Okay.
Minor scale. Harmonic minor. Melodic minor.
I kind of like, and I don't know, that kind of like, to me, like I kind of messed up with the strumming because I heard it and I was like, oh, this is something different, and I was like trying to.
So harmonic minor is the one that goes sharp going up but not going down.
Correct.
So,
It is.
Why?
That's shit. If I could answer that.
Well, like
that's like going down too.
That's a question I asked my professor in college. It's like, how did someone come up with this scale? And even they looked at me like.
Okay, yeah, so that's what you can do. You know, you can put your looper and just kind of experiment with it to hear what it sounds like and to see where you can put it in. You know, like what kind of situation it would match in. So you would use your your own best judgment, your own best ear for that. And if you're experimenting anyway, it's a good thing to do.
And one thing to be mindful of as you're exploring this is, like we said last week, last time I was here, there is no such thing as really wrong notes.
Yeah.
There are better choices in certain areas than others, but there is pretty much no note you can't use over any given chord, provided you put it in the right place, on the right beat, with the right articulation. If you do that, you can pretty much use anything anywhere.
Like I would think to a degree that it might even help to every once in a while if you hit like a wrong note. Like, don't be afraid to, or don't try to like move away from it as soon as you can.
Yeah, play it again.
Yeah,
play it again,
or like
wrong note again.
And like you keep playing it, and it kind of like says like, okay, so I know like this is the wrong note, and I shouldn't try to play it. But it's like when you're in a live setting or when you're doing something and you do hit it, you're not afraid of like, oh, I hit a wrong note. What do I do, right?
No,
so,
that's right. Yeah. That's why like being good at improv like really makes it a lot easier to play in public, because if you do mess up, you can just like improv your way out of it.
Yeah, I think there's like the bass player Victor Wooten, right? Like he says like it's always a half step away. Any wrong note, so you just move up and down and you'll find that right note.
Right.
Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's since we have about 15 more minutes, let's talk about Lana Del Rey. Have you heard this? Okay, Lana Del Rey did this song that sounds just like Radiohead's Creep.
Okay.
Which she then got sued by Radiohead, because it sounds like it. And then, but Radiohead at one point got sued by the people who did that. All I need is the air that I breathe. Because Creep sounds like that song too. Now, my question is, could you give us a guideline of, or, some basics of when you're kind of stepping over someone's foot when you're on someone's toes when you're trying to write a song, because we were just talking about this last night where like, oh, you can you go, what was that song that we were talking about, Vanilla Ice with dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah,
dun 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 dun, right? So
totally
like,
different. I don't know.
So some guidelines of when you're stepping on a composer's toes and when you're not, and you were mentioning that lyrics, the difference between like stepping on someone's lyrics and melody and chord progression.
Okay.
Go.
So that's not a 15-minute question, but I'll see if I can burn through it. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the easy part. According to the law, the copyright law, there's two things you can copyright in a song: the lyrics and the melody. All right. So, like I said before, the lyrics are pretty easy to figure out whether or not some people are copying it or not. Because if I write a song that says the first line is "You ain't nothing but a hound dog," I'm not going to have a whole lot of standing in court to fight that if Big Mama Thornton's estate comes after me, because it wasn't Elvis.
But what about like say Justin Bieber's "Baby," like. Baby, 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 and how about that other baby, baby, baby?
Oh, okay.
Love go. That's just like where.
So where the courts would look at that would be, what are the words? What are the lyrics? Okay. Obviously, a word like baby, if you're going to repeat it over and over again, that is so common. Generally, they won't uphold that. Okay. Otherwise, someone would have copyrighted 3 babies and 4 babies and 5 babies in a row, and basically
6 babies,
and they would just be like bazillionaires now because of everybody using that. All right, but it's more along the lines of things like key phrases, and it's also how much, because the Justin Bieber song and that other one, yes, they have a line was baby, baby, baby. But what comes after it, what comes before it? Okay? Now if Bieber's song had more of those lyrics, then he would have had a problem. Yeah. But he didn't. They were not the same before or after. So that was the thing. Now melody is a little bit trickier. Okay? There are only 12 notes to work with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that sound like other things. All right? So what someone would do if someone was trying to sue based on stealing someone's melody, it would then be, okay, well, they would have someone sit down with both songs and like analyze those different parts and see, okay, how many of those notes actually are like coincidental? Like this note goes up, does this note go up? Does this note go down? Does that one go down? If they find too many similarities, then yes, you might have the original artist might have a case in that. A lot of people confuse suing on the melody with suing about the vibe of the song. All right? The vibe of the song, your chord progression, keep this in mind. Your chord progression and your titles of your songs are not copyrightable at all. Okay?
So you can have a Hound Dog song.
I could have a song called Hound Dog, but if I steal too many of the lyrics from the Big Mama Thornton song, then I would have a copyright issue with the lyrics. Okay? You could write a song right now and call it Blackbird and put it up on iTunes.
We talked about the X-Men.
yeah, exactly.
I think, or are we earlier? Like Algene was saying, like, oh, we're gonna do a lesson for love song later on.
Yeah.
And I was like, what love song? Because there is also
a bunch of different songs called love songs.
311 or the Cure's, the original Cure, or Sarah Bareilles'.
Yeah. So it
don't want to write.
So like titles are totally like
titles are completely free game. Yeah. Now that being said, you don't want to, if possible, you really don't want to name your song the same one as a famous one for two reasons. Number one, that means if you write a song called Blackbird and you put it up on iTunes for people to sell, what are they going to find when they do a search for Blackbird? Your song is going to be like 50,000th down the list after all the covers of the Beatles and the Beatles Blackbird. And there's a lot of people who've done those covers. So you're going to have to go through all the versions the Beatles did, plus all the covers before they find yours.
For my X-Men song.
So I thought it was going to be called Jubilee.
Okay, maybe.
Jubilee and the Beast. So that's why titles are not copyrightable. There's only so many things you can call a song. And really because of that, it's not only you can't copyright, and it's not advisable. Like I said, it's just not advisable to do it. Okay, unless your song title is same as a famous one, and it's so integral to the song that you can't think of anything else to call it. I guess you can do it, but I would highly suggest you not if you are writers out there, just because of that confusion problem you're going to end up with. All right, now chord progressions. Chord progressions are also not copyrightable at all. It doesn't matter how unique yours is. You know, you can do a chord progression that's like a B flat minor 7 flat 13 with a sharp 11 to a G sharp, you know, stuff that doesn't even make sense in music. You still couldn't copyright it. No. For that same reason. Because if you could copyright a chord progression, you could monopolize things.
Millions.
You know, imagine if you had copyrighted the
1645.
Yeah, exactly. If you had copyrighted 1645 in every key, then whoever had done that they'd be richer than Bill Gates. You know, because everybody would have to, literally almost everybody on the planet would have to pay royalties to them. Okay? A good example of a simple melody and words that are, I believe, still copyrighted. Happy Birthday.
I think they released the copyright on that.
Oh, did they find?
I think so. But
okay, that was a long time.
We can still use this example though.
Yeah. Well, for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Happy Birthday was under copyright, which meant that anytime you heard it in a TV show or a movie or anything like that, those three little school teachers from wherever they were from got money. Okay,
it's expensive. That song is expensive.
And that
song
is.
If you're gonna use it for a film or a TV or anything like that,
that
pay a lot of money.
That song, funny enough, because you would think Happy Birthday. That's such an easy song that like it's such a part of our lexicon now.
Yeah,
that you don't even think about a time when that song didn't exist.
Yeah. So you use For he's a jolly good fellow.
There's
Because that's a copyright free.
Yeah.
well, there's a movie called Hunt for the Wilder People, and they had Happy Birthday in the movie, and they had the actors sing it and everything. And while they were doing that, they did like so many takes. They found out that it was copyright. So on the spot, they had to come up with a new song to sing for the main character's birthday instead of Happy Birthday to avoid that. So it's stuff like that you also see too, or before anyways,
Absolutely.
when it was under copyright.
You gotta. If you guys are doing music of your own or you should check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I wanted to bring that up only because someone who would ask, when to use natural melodic minors, I'm guessing is like writing stuff, or wanna be experimenting with those things. And as a writer myself, sometimes I gotta think like, have I heard this before? Have I heard this melody before? Have I have I heard these lyrics before? And it's easy to kind of step on someone's toes, and it's very easy to have copied something, because every single thing, every single melody line, even if no matter how original you think it is, it's already been done. I mean, it's how many centuries of music has there been?
Right.
So
depending on what you are copying. Again, if you're copying background or the vibe or the groove of a song, that is much easier to do. And since that is generally completely legal, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
We were just talking. Excuse me. If any of you are Demi Lovato fans, her new song "Sorry Not Sorry," there's that piano part. Well, that piano part was, if you're a young person now, then you would know that that's also the same piano part that was in Ariana Grande's "The Way,"
which is also
the piano part for slightly older people. Big Punisher's "Still Not a Player," which, if you're my age, you would also know was from Brenda Russell's song "A Little Bit of Love." If you listen to that and then realize that most of the big people, I mean, they do it for a simple reason, because the song that they're taking from, they're willing to pay the money to use those melodies and stuff like that, because it's already in people's heads. So you're more likely to listen to it. Anything Will Smith did in the last 20 years has been like that. I mean, a lot of it.
We were just talking about Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, Wild Wild West. That's actually I Wish by Stevie Wonder. If you Men in Black was Forget Me Nots by Patrice Rushen. Just the two of us. I mean, he actually didn't disguise that at all.
It's just the two of us.
It's just the two of us. He just went ahead and did it. Puff Daddy or P. Diddy when he was big. I mean, that was everything he did. Everything he did. Now, keep in mind, under the law, they were paying for the use of all these. Okay? And the reason they were doing it was because the instant you hear that beginning of Every Breath You Take, which was his I'll Be Missing You, as soon as you hear it, it latches on because you've already heard it. Your brain is kind of like pre-wired to like it.
So you're paying for the earworm, basically.
You're paying for the earworm.
And then you insert that earworm.
But there's a lot of other songs that have similar grooves that you can't copyright. So that piano lick in the Demi Lovato Ariana Grande song, you can't copyright that. That's one thing, and you can use it. You out there, you can use it in your song if you wanted. He could use it in his, except he doesn't play piano.
I'll learn piano just for this.
On your little keyboard.
Yeah.
If you put that on the little keyboard in your next set, I'm down to do that.
I forgot my keyboard.
Another good example of two songs that sound very similar, and it was built in that way, chord progression wise and rhythm wise, was Dear Future Husband by Meghan Trainor and Dance With Me Tonight by Ollie Murs. If you listen to both of those, it still has a dum dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum, the drum beat and the bass beat and everything, but you can't copyright any of that.
No.
So and the truth is that type of beat is very much the Ronettes, the Shirelles from the late 50s into the 60s. Motown had a bunch of beats like that. Therefore showing you really can't copyright any of that stuff. Otherwise, I guess Barry Gordon and Marvin Gaye would have had the lock on all that, 50, 60 years ago. So when it comes, it's kind of like what you said. When you're writing a song, just ask yourself, have I heard this before, or am I am I really coming up with this out of my own head?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of times, like when I write and I'll come up with something good, and then I realize like, oh, that's why it's good. It's like it's already been done before. But honestly, you know, a lot of the tunes that I create, I like at the time, and then I find out that it's like, oh man, it's like borrowing from this song or borrowing from that song, but I just like let it go because or it happened organically because I've never heard that song before, and for some reason I strung those same amount of notes together in that rhythm,
Right.
you know, or maybe I've heard it somewhere and it was just stuck in the back of my head or something.
Right.
Like
It could have been in a TV show, a
exactly.
movie.
So
well, it makes sense that like if you came up with it on your own and somebody else came up with it, and it sounds similar, but like if you're trying to make something that sounds good, right?
yeah,
Like it's kind of natural that you're gonna pick those notes or
Right,
whatever.
and keep in mind, like I said before, there's only but so many chords to use, and only 12 notes you have to put in different combinations. Okay, there's not an infinite. I mean, maybe there's for relative to our
Get a
ability to
koto.
process it. There's an infinite way to put the notes together.
oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go with half tones or like shamisen and koto and stuff. Maybe you could
That's
have
a-
maybe 24 notes.
Okay, but then that's Eastern music.
That's that. I'm gonna get away with copyright. I'm gonna write all my songs on shamisen, koto. No,
and play it all and I'll play it all a quarter step wrong off.
Japan can't catch
not the
me.
same.
They're not gonna notice.
Well, keep in mind though that copyright laws, as well as trademark laws and things like that, are only based on the country you're in.
Ah, so I could go to China.
So you could go to China and write Blackbird and try and
Someone
copyright it
already
there.
hasn't already.
I'm sure they have. They're not stupid. They have, you know. But that's very true. Copyrights. As a quick side one, we were talking about old instrument manufacturers, like Ibanez and Takamine, and they started off as copycat companies, making exact replica of Fenders and Gibsons and stuff like that. Now, Martin and Fender and Gibson, they actually had no legal way to sue them in Japan because that was two different countries. So all the trademark and copyright stuff they had for America didn't apply in Japan. But they were able to put enough business pressure on them by the fact that they were big companies to say, like, if you keep bringing in your fakes into, you know, or your copies of our instruments into our company, we're going to do everything we can to stop you. And that was enough. Also, there are times, and I love this story, there are times when people take suing for infringement of copyright just a little too far and kind of ridiculous. In the mid-'80s, John Fogerty, former of Creedence Clearwater Revival, and this is an amazing songwriter. The guy wrote Bad Moon Rising, Proud Mary, all that stuff like that. He was sued by his former record company for copyright infringement because he had just put out a new album.
That's right.
And they sued him for sounding too much like Creedence Clearwater Revival,
Which is him.
Well,
which was his band that he was the lead singer of and the primary songwriter.
well, I was telling Aldrine that there's musicians now, or we were talking about it, right? Like where there's musicians now who like they are like their company, their label will sue another musician for copyright infringement.
Yeah.
And the other musician will be like, "Oh, what's the deal? Like, you know, I thought we were cool. Like, why are you being so hard on me?" And the musicians are like, "We have no, you know, that's all our record label. That's
BMI's
all,
problem.
yeah."
That's very
Ask
true.
problem, yeah.
You know, because obviously, unless you are an enormous artist, you know, record companies are going to do what they want, and they're not really concerned. Many times bigger because they're not really concerned with the artistry part of it. They're concerned with the numbers and the dollars of it. A good example of that is Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve.
Okay.
If anybody doesn't know the song, just look it up. That's the one.
Yeah.
Now where that lick is from a Rolling Stones live with orchestra album.
Oh.
Okay, and apparently there was talks before, and everybody thought everything was cool, and then the record company got involved and said it's not. And so actually, even though it was a huge hit, Bittersweet's The Verve never actually made any money off that song because the record company sued them for so much money that all the proceeds from that huge hit song went back to the record company. Not even necessarily to the Rolling Stones. It just went back to that record company the Stones were part of. So it does happen. And to finish that story, so Fogerty goes to John Fogerty. He goes to Chord, and they tried to arbitrate and everything, and it literally went to court in front of a judge. And he got up on the stand.
I am credence.
Yeah, and basically that's what he said. Like, okay, they're suing me for sounding too much like Creedence Clearwater Revival, the band that I started, that I was the main songwriter, and that I was the lead singer of. Yeah, anything I do is going to sound like that after that, you know? And he played some of his old songs. He said his new songs. So like, this is why these two songs are different. And it was probably a pretty bad idea on the old record company's part to sue him for it, because obviously he could tell you why these two songs are different.
Yeah.
You know, and being a creative songwriter, he's not trying to write the same song 3 times, 5 times in a row. He's wanting to do new stuff. You know, so he was able to sit down and say like, well, you're suing me about this song. The song goes like this, and here's the chords, and this is the words, and here's my new song that you say sounds too much like it, and here's where it's different, and here's how it is the same. And but keep in mind that I wrote all these songs. So, you know, there is going to be kind of maybe a unifying thread that goes through all of these because I wrote it. You know, it's the same thing with someone like, say, since this song is stuck in my head, thank you, Aldrin, Elton John. Yes, he has a lot of wonderfully different songs, but if you hear anybody play Benny and the Jets, you know that's an Elton John song. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, the only guy you could possibly confuse it for would maybe be Billy Joel. You know what I mean?
So if Elton John formed a band and wrote a song that sounded like Benny and the Jets.
It's Nenny and the Jets.
Nenny and the Bets.
Yeah.
That's stretching it. that's pushing to see how far you can go, but possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's such a thing as we call derivative work in copyright, which means that so that the famous dun 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 dun, it's not the same, but it was the same. And so Ice Ice Baby was considered to be a derivative work of Under Pressure because of that. Okay. Which meant that Vanilla Ice's record company had to pay royalties back to Queen's record company.
Did they lose? I thought they didn't lose that.
No, they lost.
That?
Oh, they lost.
I thought it was different. Dun, 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 dun.
It was not different enough. It was actually that, and you know the thing is with that court case was actually very, very pivotal because it was the first one where people had really done that. Like someone had really come out and said, "You ripped off our song. We are," you know what I mean? Especially in that rap sampling world.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it. If you listen to any rap from the 70s and the 80s, it's all sampled stuff.
Or like just the start of hip hop was people playing records.
Old records and then rapping.
Yeah.
You know, for those of you who are old aficionados, go look up the song Apache by the Incredible Bongo Band, and then you will recognize that in about like 18 million rap songs.
Or one of the what's known as like the first rap songs, the Sugar Hill Gang, right?
Yeah, Rappers Delight and stuff like that.
Like it was just somebody else's song. Like it was like clearly like somebody else's, and then they, you know.
Now the thing is, through the 70s into the 80s when rap was starting to get big, that was still what we considered a gray area because they really weren't sampling a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a good example because it was a collaboration between the two, but if you look at Aerosmith and Run DMC when they were doing Walk This Way, all the parts that were the choruses was done by the Aerosmith half, and the only thing Run DMC was using was a ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. That's not really a whole lot, although it is very recognizable, so someone could make a claim based on that. You know, but they didn't. You know, there was so many. I mean, again, let's go back to Will Smith. His first big song took the rhythm from the opening from I Dream of Jeannie, I think.
Dream of Jeannie.
Or Bewitched, one of the two. I think it was I Dream of Jeannie though. And he didn't. I don't think he paid for that, but because it was so small, and I guess the producers of I Dream of Jeannie were just like, whatever.
Cool.
But as money started to really flow into the rap game,
I mean, we should tap into
that.
Tap that vein.
I think even now, like, I don't know, I wouldn't suggest people do this, but like, there's a lot of producers who sample stuff and they put it up online, and they don't charge anything for it though, and they just say like, oh, here's a song, just listen to it or whatever, do whatever you want with it, just have fun. And it's kind of like the record companies don't go after them because it's like, wow, they're not making money from it. Like,
well, and you know, honestly, that is the whole crux of any copyright lawsuit. It's about money.
Yeah.
Depends how
Okay.
much money you're making. if
Yeah,
they want
exactly.
Part of it.
So going back to it's not the same. That's why Vanilla Ice was the guy who got tagged for that, because that song was probably the
Everywhere.
most. That song was everywhere. It was one of the most successful rap songs ever, to the point where it was considered like kind of like a one of those crossover songs, where like people who didn't like rap still like that song.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those same people who were like into, say, I don't know, in that era, Culture Club and guys like that, they weren't really listening to Run DMC. They weren't listening to Commode or Grandmaster Flash or anything like that. They weren't. You know, it was very different. And so that's why you didn't have a lot of that crossover. But then Vanilla Ice came out with that, and it did cross over huge for them. And that made a ton of money.
Yeah.
So
And
they want some of that money.
Well, you know, and they did. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was a lot. It was
Millions.
several $1 million worth of copy.
I
It wasn't just the
thought
rights.
they
too.
lost that. Or yeah.
No, I think they won that one. Pretty sure they won that. Because that set a precedent for everybody who came after that through the 90s, where everybody then got to the point where, like, okay, so right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and
give you
just pay.
Yeah.
We're going to pay up front. Funny enough, this is also another side thing. When we talk about derivative works and fair use is a term for, like, what can you use? What can you use legally without getting yourself sued? Parodies of songs actually are
okay.
are always okay.
That's why Weird Al is making the killing.
Yeah, Weird Al, he technically doesn't have to, and if anybody took him to court, he'd probably win every time on the derivative work thing. But that's not who he is. So actually, if you watch any interviews with him, you know that he actually asked permission of the artist before he. I mean, he sometimes writes a song, records it, and then finds out, oh, the artist doesn't want me using this, so I just won't. You know, sometimes it goes sideways. That was that whole thing with Coolio over Gangster's Paradise and Amish Paradise, because I guess Coolio's record company had told him it was okay.
Oh.
But Coolio.
It's like, this song is about this, and it's, it means close to me. Yeah. I remember that interview.
Yeah, and
offensive.
And so, Weird Al, but by this time the album had already come out. He apologized and said, "Look, I'm really sorry. I had been told that you were cool with this, and I'm really sorry that
Coolio.
I'm so sorry, man. I didn't mean to get your hair all. Oh wait, that's the way it always is."
All right, guys, and you know what? We went an entire episode without saying the magic word, and Kahayaki had his button ready. Let's just show the audience what that sounds like, just in case we say the magic word Jake Shibukuro next time. So, all right, we're gonna stop right there. It was great, man. Sweet me, dude.
Bam. Wait. I'm kind of deaf in this here. So what was that? Did you say Jake Shimabukuro?
I gotta rewind the thing.
You gotta put the record back.
Yeah.
Drop the needle again. You can make a remix of it.
I really can't, but I can keep playing it.
DJ
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Mike. Are you coming back for next Thursday?
Next Thursday?
Yeah. Are you coming back
I'll come when you ask.
Ooh,
if you have questions, please send them on in, and they'll
Mike
tell me. And they'll tell me, and I'll come up with the best answer possible can for you.
That's how it works here on Thursday, because I think Aaron is still Aaron is going to be running his ultra marathon next week, which is 50 miles.
He's insane.
Guys.
50 miles.
That's insane. So Aaron is
my car
running
can't make it 50 miles.
Yeah, I don't even want to drive 50 miles somewhere. So he's gonna run it. So Aaron's gonna be doing that thing. I'm gonna need a co-pilot, a Chewie perhaps, to my Han Solo. So Mike, you want to come?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so next week we have Mike Oda coming back again. Send us all your awesome questions so that Mike can answer them next week. Have a great one. Stick around for Songs Made Easy, and stick around after that for one-on-one. I keep coaching. I don't want to say sessions. One-on-one sessions is actually one-on-one coaching. So, anything else you want to add?
We probably also want to mention no Aloha Friday.
Oh, no Aloha Friday tomorrow. Tomorrow is Good Friday. We are observing Good Friday tomorrow to get us ready for Easter, just Sunday. Good Friday tomorrow. There's no
Isn't it? Oh no, is it Fat Tuesday? What?
Oh, Fat Tuesday is the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday. Which is
I was all
nice.
excited. I'm gonna go eat malasadas
Oh, yeah.
tomorrow.
That was like
It's about
that was
40
like-
days late. 40 days too late, buddy.
I don't know. I'm not good at math. That's why I work here.
I'm originally
All he has
from
to do is count to 4.
I'm originally from the Philippines, so I've been raised in like some Catholic values that's been implanted in my brain when those dates are.
You got it. Next time, remind me when I can eat malasadas.
Oh yeah, but no one
I-
reminded me that I couldn't have my stuffed chicken because it's Friday today. No, tomorrow's Friday. See,
Yeah.
my brain. I haven't slept in days. So anyway, we'll see you folks next time. Have a great one. Aloha.